Today, my guest is Professor Lilac Nachum. I will keep my introduction short to maximize our time with her. In the next 30 minutes or so, we'll talk about Lilac as a person, Professor Nahum as a thought leader and an esteemed scholar, and finally as a mentor to many PhD students and junior faculty. For the sake of time, I will skip many of her accomplishments and give you a very quick snapshot. Professor Nahum is an AIB fellow. She has served as a consulting editor and board member of many IB and strategy journals. She is the author of many journal articles and chapters, as well as two books on global competition and service industries. She received the 2017 Best Paper Award from AIB's Research Methods Division, and she is a frequent commentator on various international media outlets, including CNBC, Fox News, CNN, Forbes, Financial Times, India Economic Times, Business World India, and she has consulted with a number of national and international organizations, including the UN, European Union, London's Westminster City Council, the government of Turkey, and the US Department of Commerce. Thank you, Lilac, for joining us.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Lilac, my first question always is, what did you want to become when you were a child? How about your background? Where were you
A
born? What
singer.
did you want to become?
A singer. A singer. I wanted to be a singer. A singer and a
And
dancer. Yeah.
interesting. And where were you born?
In Israel.
Israel. Can you pinpoint the earliest moment of awareness between domestic versus foreign?
Oh, all my life I couldn't think about the first since I remember myself. I was aware of that. Growing up in Israel as a country of immigrant, everybody came from somewhere. My own father came. It was a Holocaust survivor and immigrated to Israel after the war. So my grandparents on my mother's side came to Israel when they were young, running away from pogroms in Russia. So international was with me throughout. And we had in Israel very thick borders, to borrow a phrase from the World Bank, in the sense that at the time we were in a very serious war relationship with all our neighbors.
Mhm.
So being inside and outside was such a huge, huge difference. And I really can't, I don't remember ever not being aware of that.
Interesting. So, what did you, or when did you decide to be an IB researcher? What made you go into the IB research
And
side?
I had a kind of a journey before I became an academic, but and you can imagine if my first dream was to be a singer and a dancer, it's quite a way from there to an academia. But but it was all. There was no question about that it would be international. Absolutely no question for me. So I felt as well almost there is no choice even. Yeah, that's what it meant to be. I did in my I did an MBA before becoming doing a PhD. So I concentrated with international marketing because there was no IB in
Mhm.
our in the program. So this was the closest I could get to international. I think in part of it is this being mindful of the world from a very very early age. The second maybe has to do with the fact that I lived initially in Israel, but then also in Denmark and Switzerland, very small countries, and I always had the feeling, a sense that what is happening outside of the country is much more important than what is happening inside. And I was always very, very interested in what is happening inside. So, um, and one thing I remember from very early age that I was always dreaming. I always wanted the world to be my country, not to have a country, to have the world to be my country. So to be an IB scholar was just it was not even a choice. It was
Natural
just
progression.
yeah, yeah.
Um, what's something not many people know about you, something that you wouldn't put on your CV?
Maybe what I just said, and I think maybe it doesn't show up anywhere. I never actually said it in public, I think, anywhere. But outside, maybe outside of the profession, my passion to yoga, maybe.
Yeah,
If you want to pick up one. Yeah, yeah.
interesting. If you stop doing what you're doing today, what is the second best alternative career path?
To work in a corporate world in a global company.
Yeah.
Yeah, without
Do you
any.
have corporate experience before the PhD?
Yes, I started actually in the corporate world and never became sort of an accidental professor, if you will. Never had an intention to become an academic. After I decided that being a singer and a dancer maybe not a very promising profession, my next bet was I actually I just started to work as a secretary basically in a company because I had to live for something. And I was promoted there very, very quickly and became a manager of bigger divisions. It was a small company in Israel, and Israel at the time didn't have such a small private sector. They were very much dominated by government, everything and anything. But this was a small company, so it was not anything big to talk about. But nonetheless, it gave me a flavor of the business world, and I loved it.
Mhm.
And I thought that that's what I really want to do. So to be good at that, you have to go back to university. So I went back to the university and did an MBA, and didn't have any intention really, any stage along the way to become an academic. Um, I was a very good student and finished high degree class and all that. And my professors convinced me very hardly to continue to PhD. And I think in large part in Israel at the time, it was very common that professors, I think because salaries at universities were very, very low, so professors combined university work with corporate world, and that's what they sort of kept describing this to me, what it will be like. Yeah, it's
Mm.
not that you become a full-time academic, but just become also an academic. Yeah, and I have an uncle who I adored and really loved it, very much, and he did that too. He was an engineer, but he combined career with the corporate world with a very successful academic career. So he was sort of my role model all my childhood. So that's how it all started. And meanwhile, I married and we moved to Denmark, and I did my PhD there. And I was just unable. I wanted to go back to the corporate world. I still wanted to go back to the corporate world, but I was unable to get a job there. I was a foreigner and very much felt
Mm.
like it. Um, yeah, and my first job was in the United Nations, in the research division of the United Nations. And then the rest became kind of sort of a little path dependent. I always I love learning and it's kind of endless curiosity. So I was an easy target for my professors when they tried to get me to go to academia. It was easy to convince me to study and to do research. But yeah, but then yeah, and after that, one job after the other, and I kind of became a full-time academic, kind of with all my heart, but never lost the passion to the corporate world and the desire, in a way, also the desire to return one day. Yeah.
Lilac, let's talk about regrets. What is one thing you wish you would have done that you didn't?
Well, really, I think that to do
That's
more
it.
work in practice, to make more of an impact. I think even both more of an impact. It could also be on governmental area, which is of
Yeah.
course sort of a natural evolution for me after the work I did in the United Nations. But and has always kept one leg in this world too. But yeah, I think that, yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Last question in the
But
personal
we're
segment.
still young, right? So
What are you most proud of?
I don't know. I guess in my personal life, the first thing that comes immediately to mind are my three children. But I guess you want to hear on the professional level.
No, no. in professional level, a professional segment about research, I'm really curious about how you chose your dissertation topic. What made you choose your dissertation topic?
Porter's book just came out then, The Competitive Advantage of Nation, Porter's 1990. It was hugely influential. It's kind of at the center of the discussions everywhere. I got interested back then and never lost this interest to the present day, really, in the national origin of firms advantages, and what difference does it make that if you come from Israel, for that matter, or from Denmark. Because that was Porter had shown very, very vividly that it matters, and it matters a great deal. But why and how exactly in this? I wanted to look into this in greater depth in the context of a particular industry and really get a first-hand understanding of this via conversations with companies and how to get their perspective and how they view those things. So so that's how I started. I chose the advertising industry. I wanted very much to be. I wanted it to be an industry where there is nothing tangible that ties companies to a country. To make it as intangible as possible. So that, of course, my focus immediately was on professional services. Yeah, and among them, for a variety of reasons, I selected advertising.
Perfect. Yeah. Can we talk about what is understudied in IB currently? What are the topics that IB scholars are not exercising?
One topic that I'm kind of particularly married to recently is Africa. Mm-hmm. So so we just had this morning a meeting about editorial that I'm working on with several other dedicated colleagues to try to invigorate more interest in Africa in the IB community. So that's something that on which I've been very passionate. Kind of got to be myself to be introduced to Africa over the last decade by now almost. Yeah, spent some time there and has been fascinated by this continent in many ways. Yeah, and I really really try to do as much I can to encourage interest in that, to basically share my enthusiasm about business opportunities, about research opportunities in the region, in the continent, with the rest of our community. So that one.
Expand on that one about Africa. You're talking about a new special issue. Is this going to be?
No, not a special issue. It's just an editorial at this stage.
Okay.
Yeah, but I've started to become interested in Africa quite a while ago because I thought here is a huge continent, so big by so many measures, and we know so little about it. We hardly pay attention to it. I wanted very much to teach there. I felt that the best hope for Africa is education, and I wanted to be part of it and developing its own business community. Yeah. And I very much wanted to be part of it. And I started to attend Africa-based conferences. And I told everybody I met there that I want to teach in Africa. And in the end, the Lagos Business School invited me. And I went there once, I think it was 2015 already. And I taught there, I spent a wonderful summer there. And then next year came my sabbatical. So I spent my whole sabbatical there, one semester sabbatical. So that really gave me kind of a strong flavor of Africa, and I joined the Africa chapter of the IB and became quite active there, and then did another research, spent another few weeks in South Africa and collected some data on firms there that I'm currently working on a paper based on this. What else I did? Basically, and attended several conferences which gave me opportunities just to visit several African countries by now.
So first thing, omitted variable is geography. You're focused particularly in Africa. Anything else? Any other omitted variables?
Say it again. I didn't get
any other omitted variables in IB research other than the geographic
So
region.
Africa, yeah. Recently, I feel that um, uh, I think we don't pay enough attention to the anti-globalization movement and the implication of this for globalization, and literally for our existence as a society. But that's a smaller issue, um, and the role that multinational companies could play in this.
Mhm.
So yeah, it's we know it's by now it's very well established that globalization creates many losers, and how can we pursue the globalization and maintain all the enormous benefits that we also know it brings with it, without paying this cost and getting everybody on board, so to speak. So yeah, and again, on a personal level, and given where I'm coming from, this hatred for foreigners that this generates is really hurts me very very much. Yeah, and kind of I feel that if not us, who will take the lead on that? We are the natural. We should assume a stronger role in I think in this movement.
I mean, combining two things, Africa and anti-globalization movement. There's a lot of investment in Africa by the Indians and the Chinese, right? They are developing it a lot, and US has been really raising a lot of questions about the intent of these companies, Chinese companies particularly. Where do you see the future of IB research in the next 5 to 10 years?
Yeah,
What is the next?
what I said, this is where I want to see the IB research going. Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. This is where I want. I don't. I guess that it will probably be very heavily occupied, geared towards I'm sorry, understanding COVID and its implications, and it's already everywhere and anywhere. I hope we'll not be too consumed by that to the extent that it will mask other important issues around us, and maybe more importantly that we will have the wisdom to put this in the broader context of of external shocks, or global pandemics in general, but external shocks, yeah, then that could really make a real progress. But external shocks are it's a black swan, right? Yeah, after all, yeah, and most of the time, the swans are not black. Most of the swans are not black, and we still need to. So we need to see this in proportion. So I hope we will not forget that. Yeah.
Yeah. Uh, Comparing the past research in IB and the future research in IB, where do you see the evolution uh, take us? Are we going to be more on the macro side, or is it more micro side research? Where is the evolution of IB taking us to?
There's been a natural trajectory that from the economics-based theory of international business, moving more and more towards a strategy and management development of IB. I don't know. I think today there is a lot of interest in context and politics, and strong recognition of the importance of governments in business and international business. So we see a lot of occupation on that, which is kind of in a way a little reversal to the past, which I think is very, very welcome, um, and responsive to what we're seeing in the world. So I very much welcome that. I'm not sure. Um, I'm a great believer in interdisciplinarity and have practiced this in my own research a lot. One of the books that I think influenced me to the most is The Medici Effect by Frank Johansson. The Medici from the Medici family that sort of use this metaphor to suggest that this tremendous growth and innovation that Florence experienced in the 16th and 17th century was because the Medici family brought that together such diversity of skills and sets of knowledge, and created this melt pot for the creation of new knowledge and new innovation. And the suggestion that new knowledge is really created at the verge between between disciplines. Yeah, you take things from one discipline to another. So I hope that we will do more of that in IB, and I think we're placed in a good position to do that, but I'm not sure we do enough. You know, there are fantastic ideas in across really the most remote discipline. I just came up with something that I borrowed from biology about extreme biological conditions and the survival and the type of animals that manage to survive under extreme conditions. And I thought that speaks to so many of the things that we see, and we could use those theoretical developments in so many different areas. And then, you know, psychology theories and sociology theories, so much that is going on in other disciplines, and that is so useful and provides so much insights into the phenomena that we are trying to explain. And I hope that we will do more of that, much more of that. Yeah, we see some of that coming, but not enough to my taste, and not enough, I think, um, to an extent. I don't think that we exploit the potential that is there. Let's put it that way.
Perfect.
To
And
maximize our understanding by using different theoretical perspectives and different broad theories from other disciplines. Most of us don't read enough of others, yeah, so we don't know them. Yeah?
I want to follow up on last question for research. You know, Ansui, a couple of years ago, she said, you know, transaction cost or most of the Americanized Western world theories don't apply to China, right? It doesn't, it needs to be adapted. What do you think about the adaptation of our theories in Africa? Do they need?
I'm sorry, it's hard for me to hear you. Can you repeat this, please, louder?
Do our theories, the Western theories, Western style theories at least, do they need to be adapted to Africa?
Yeah, you know, this idea that you need to develop new theories to every region of the world is very much against it's against the whole idea of international business. It's to some extent, of course, yeah, context change theoretical relationships to some extent, yeah, but that applies everywhere, and nothing specific to Africa about that. So Africa has a context that is distinctive in some ways from others, but it doesn't mean that we need to that our theories do not apply there. So they need to be adapted. That's what we're trying to show in this paper that we're working on, the editorial for Jeeves that I mentioned before. But the principles of the theory, I don't think that they become obsolete or irrelevant.
Okay. The third segment about advice and mentoring. What was the best advice you received when you were a student?
I don't remember anything that comes to mind, really.
Okay.
Not sure about that.
Okay. What are the major mistakes or pitfalls that junior faculty and young PhD students fall into? What are the things to avoid early in their career?
Yeah, well, narrow-mindedness in the sense that I just described. Yeah, too, too narrow specialization, which is, I think is not good. I don't be. I mean, you start to chew again and again and again the same thing. Yeah, it's not good for anybody. First of all, not for yourself. Yeah. Maybe, I don't know, until you get tenure, you have to be practical. But beyond that, um, if you're really interested in academia and in scholarship and developing our profession, this is, I don't know that this is the way to go. And then really open-mindedness to other fields and to the richness of of the world. But both from the perspective of scholarship, but also really from the perspective of the world. Yeah, I think that I see interest on real interest in the world and in other culture and other people and curiosity about other countries as really part of what we do. It's not that as scholars and as people, and it really fits each other. You can't really sit in the office in New York, never being anywhere, never knowing what it looks like over there, and writing papers. I don't. Yeah. So. Yeah, I think that this is very, very important. So really have the world in your head. I speak about that a lot with my students as future managers. You call it developing a global mindset, but we need to develop global. We preach this a lot to our managers, to future managers. Sometimes I feel we need to practice it ourselves more.
Could you tell us something about failure and what to learn from failure?
Oh, I can talk for a very long time about my failures. I had so many of them. Endless number of rejected articles and jobs that I didn't get, and this and this and that. But I always reminded myself. Churchill very famously once said that success comes to those who fail and continue to try. So and that's what I always tell myself, and I hope young scholars will tell themselves too. Failures happen to all of us. You see, all the way up to Churchill, not us professors, but if Churchill is anything to go by, went down as will remain as one of the most significant person in human history. Just really learn from it and make sure not to make it again, not to fail for the same reason twice. That would be stupidity. But it's part of life. It's part of successful careers. It's part of our career. If acceptance rate in top journals is 5%, then what about on the 95%? We all in one way or at some point fall into this vast category. And not let this discourage you in any way. To the contrary, it should energize you. Yeah, I'll try again. I'll do it next time. It will work. Now I know better because I've been through this and I know what not to do.
What is one question that I should have asked you but didn't?
Maybe I can say a few words about the struggle, if you will, but also the joy of being able to combine life as a mother. I have 3 children with a career, and I know it has been a real struggle for me throughout the years when our children grew up, and I always felt that I don't spend enough time with them, and felt so bad about that. On the other hand, somehow we always jump between career and family, but I don't think that women have to make a choice. It's possible to do both, and I encourage the young women professors among us to do that. There are quite a few of us among the women, older women in the academy that have managed to do this and very, very successfully. So I really think that it's possible. There are, at some levels, there are also ways by which the two feed each other and enrich each other in some ways. But I can't think of my life giving up either of those. This is absolutely not a choice I was ever willing to make, and I encourage. I really would discourage very much with all my heart any woman to make this choice. So
thank you, Lilac.
go for it.
Thanks.